Welcome to Art with Janine. At this point in my painting, I'm going to be adding leaves to the tree using a Filbert brush and two values of the green, one dark, one light. Now I'm deciding where to start and following the tips of the trees where we have all these little branches sticking up, I just start adding this darker green. Now the darker green will be the shadow underneath, so it has to be a little lower than where you want all of the leaves to be. You're going to be layering the lighter green on top. In the distance, I am not pressing as hard on my brush so that I can have smaller leaves. And then I'll press a little harder in the foreground so that the leaves look bigger. I'm just finding all the branches and placing a few leaves around them. As you can see, I'm sort of tapping it on in a more of a relaxed triangle shape. You can see little bunches here. And then that kind of gives the effect of the leaves sort of sitting on the branches and leaning down a little. In the distance there, I'm doing some tiny little specks, but keeping in mind that I'm going to be layering the lighter green on top of these, so I have to leave space for that. I don't want to leave any trees bare, so I need to check, double check where the branches are and where I need to place these leaves. I don't have to be too specific because there's so many branches out there, but I am working from a photograph, so I'll be checking the photograph to see where there are more leaves and where there are less. This little tree here could use some leaves. Now over here I noticed there needs to be another tree, so I'm going to just quickly paint the branches in, just using a small brush. I can add a few little branches to that. There. Just define it a little more. It's hard to paint on angle, so I have to just paint them on, and I know you can't see it, but they're just lines with the brush. Little lines coming off of the bigger lines. And now I'm just cleaning up the edge of it as it's a little bumpy, and I do that by adding a little water to my brush and then weakening the paint and then gently removing it with tissue. the background is dry already, and it's a good idea to let your background dry for a day or a few hours before applying another layer, unless you want them to merge and blend, but in this case we don't, so I like to have the background dry so that I can wash off any little spills. Now I'm applying some leaves to this tree, and in the same manner as the others. It's tricky to see because it's up in the corner, and there we go. Just tapping the shadow green on gently. Or the shaded green, not really the shadow. You don't want to go back and forth too much between the darker green and the lighter green, so I like to check that I have, placed it everywhere it needs to go before I switch to the lighter green. Okay. Looks like we're ready for the lighter green. So you're placing this on top of the darker green, but you're leaving about a third of the darker green visible. And this creates shadow inside and at the bottom of the leaves. I ran out of green, so I need to mix a little bit more. Here we go. Depending on how much light there is on the trees, you could also create even lighter green and go up higher on the tree with that. to remember not to press too hard in the background so that the leaves look a little bit smaller. I realize I need to add some more leaves in this small area above the house. So I'm just going to match the greens that are there and add them in. There's a little tree here that can use some leaves. This is a distant tree, so I want to make sure I keep the leaves very small. And there's a lot of light in that tree, so instead of adding white to it, I'm just going to leave spaces that make it look airy and light. Because I'm working from a photograph, I want to just double check while I have the green handy on the palette if there are any other areas that I need to just sort of touch up on the trees. Just add a little bit of light here and there. So it's the same movement of the brush and just sort of adding a little light to this tree here. Maybe a little more to these trees in the distance. I'm keeping in mind that these trees are high up and it's a very light area, so they're airy, and I want to keep the shaded part of the tree leaves visible. I have enjoyed creating a few tutorial videos from the process of this painting, and I've posted them to Art with Janine YouTube channel. If you've enjoyed these tips and tricks for painting, please feel free to subscribe to my channel.